Well, I know everybody from coming to my studio that used to be on 95th Street. It was 2141 West 95th Street. It was called J Chill Studios. It really wasn't like a studio. It should have been J Chill Community Center because it was more like a place where everybody could come, which was great, right? Because if you know Chicago history, a lot of times people from different neighborhoods had no reason to connect. But for me, hip hop was one of the things that brought, like, it brought people way from the north side, from streets I'd never heard of. Like, you live on Waveland, Augusta, I'm like, man, where is that? I went to Whitney Young, so I went to school in the middle of the city, so I knew some of the streets. But for me, hip hop was one of those things that brought people together. It brought like slang to 95th Street, which was, from the west side, Noble Square. And everyone would kind of like, you had Slang Shop here, a few blocks down from mine, and then you had the studio right here. And Beverly was kind of it was a good neighborhood. You really wasn't going to get a lot of gang banging or anything like that at that time on 95th Street. So the studio was a good place where people could come and hang out. And at that studio, we had a lot of people who, now that I look back at it, are in some really good places musically and have done some really great work out there. I mean, I would say it was random, but as I look at it now, it had to be like, I think it's kind of divine, because how do all those people end up in one spot, and then all these careers, come from it later, looking back at it. We can get to that later. But I was going to Chicago State at the time when I was doing that studio, and my speech teacher in my speech class was Kanye's mother. In speech class, you have to do speeches. You have to work on your public speaking. So I had to do a speech. So I did a speech about hip-hop and owning the studio. I was a business major, so it made sense, This is what I'm doing. This is something I think is new, it's cutting edge. People don't know about it, blah, blah, blah. I did some speech. I don't remember what the speech was, but all I do remember is that his mother was like, I need to talk to you after class. I was like, oh, man, I'm sitting in the back of the class. Like, I probably just bombed that. I wonder what is she going to say, So, I'm like, the whole rest of the class, I probably can't even concentrate because I'm thinking like, this is a big percentage of your grade. That that final speech you had to do in speech class, like 40% of your grade, 35%, whatever. I'm like, oh man, probably should have picked something more professional. She's probably like, what is this? And so after class, she pulled me to the side. She was like, about your speech. Is the stuff you said in your speech, is that something you just made up, or is that like true stuff? I was like, oh no, that's true stuff. She's like, so you have a studio and it's on 95th Street and there's this thing and this hip hop and stuff. And I was like, yeah. She was like, because I just bought my son this very expensive, like, keyboard machine. And, I just want him to be, is this a place where he can come? Is it, safe? Is it good? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. My aunt works here at the board. You can go talk to her. I'm a good kid. You can ask her. And then, if you feel comfortable, bring him by there. And she took all the steps to do that. And then she would bring him by there. She came in, checked the place out. So, all right, that's good. I'll leave him, tell him, call me when you're ready to go. And he would just be up there all the time. You had No ID coming there. You had Common coming there. You had Just Roll coming there. You had The Roll coming there. I mean, I can't, a who's list of everybody that's coming there. Andy C. I mean, it just was nonstop. And everybody was in that place. So when we had the Grab album, that was the first time, because with the Common records, especially the first two, it's pretty much, it is, it's Dion and it's Tone. And, that was that group. So Grab was like the first one where, Grab gave a lot of people and a lot of beats that he was hearing at that time, because he would also come to J Chill. And he was giving a lot of people a lot of opportunities, and him and Kanye just clicked. That was the first time. I mean, Kanye did the majority of that album. I think Dion did one song. I might have did one song and a couple intros. Andy C did one song. I think Shakespeare, who did the TLC stuff, did one song. Ray Nima recorded a lot of it and worked on tracking it out. I know I'm forgetting somebody. Ivan the Barber, wasn't he on there rapping? You just look at that whole thing and dissect it. There were a lot of pieces and a lot of people that he gave an opportunity to. So that was a sign, because before that, we had, at least on the South Side where we were, and from people we knew, you only had Common that had a deal. Then you had now Common and Grab, so it was another avenue to be able to get work. And you saw that it was something that, I might be able to just keep doing this. If people keep getting deals, and we'll all be, it'll be good. We'll be working. Me being, older than these guys, I graduated high school in '87, so they were like that gap, where you're 19 and these kids are 13. As I look back, everybody, we're talking the late 80s, definitely all through the 90s on up, and then I look at it now in the 2000s. I have to honestly say I had zero idea that anybody would be where they are right now. I knew that everybody was good. I knew that everybody was pushing each other to these levels where, like, you'll hear one beat one day that maybe Dion did, and you're like, there'll never be a better beat than that. That's the top one. And then the next day, someone would bring a beat that, would be challenging that. And so you had all these people pushing these levels, and it was all about records and who could get the illest records, the illest collection, and then the equipment, and everybody was good, but I had no idea that any of the things that have happened would happen. We weren't concerned with that. I mean, we were concerned with making something good enough to take down the HBK, maybe take it down to JP, Chill, or, whoever's on the station at that time, Collapse, or, Tone was on there for a while, and having something that could play good enough for the DJs who were doing the clubs at that time, like the Laura Links and the Elbow Room and these places, something good enough for them to play to put us in the mix. That was probably the only concern. WHBK was a pivotal record station on the South Side, and it was unique because you had to do all these, like, wild things to, like, tune in the monitor, like put aluminum foil on your antenna or another wire, or put the radio boom box in a certain part of your house where you could pick up the station. They would play the curse words, and they were friendly. If I just went down there on a Friday and just waited long enough, or, could, communicate it, they would actually let you in the station and maybe give you a shot at playing your record. Who was going to do that? You weren't going to walk. I mean, maybe NUR, which was another pivotal radio station up north, or maybe CRX, because Third Rail and different people that would open up the door, they were in the community. You could do that. But WHBK was definitely a place that basically we went to test records. We went to play records, we went to test records, and if you could put something on HBK and someone would come up to you the next day and be like, yo, I heard your song on HBK, and it was, it was banging, it was a good song, then you knew you had at least a spark, you knew you had something. So it was very pivotal. And all those stations were college radio stations, and they kind of introduced hip-hop to the community because none of the big majors were playing. I mean, they may have played Sugar Hill Gang or Houdini or something, really big at that time, but the college stations were playing, the ill Knowledge Me, the ill Schoolie D, and the Just Ice, and, the songs you had never heard, the real underground, hip-hop at that time, and you were like, whoa, you were being exposed to it. So it was real important. I mean, college radio was, a lot of times I would just put my cassette tape on record and pause. And during this time frame of hip-hop, those college radio stations were equivalent to what, like, blogs are today. So you can go to a blog, you can learn about the artist, you can learn about new music, you can see the background. Well, we didn't have the internet like that, but what college radio would do, they would sit there and interview you on the spot. They would ask you these questions, ask you about the project, who you're working with, what equipment you were using, so you get that same information. And the great thing about colleges it was a network of colleges throughout the United States. So it was also like the YouTube, where if you want to see a video, now you can go to the internet. Back then, if you wanted to see some underground hip-hop show, you might have to go to a college where they brought the artist in, and then you could see the artist perform. And you could buy a tape, and you could be in arm's reach of the artist. It was a very intimate setting. It wasn't a big venue where you couldn't, just walk up to the artist. You could develop a relationship. So it was a little different in that aspect. College radio also, besides playing your music and showing the video, a lot of times when you had a record deal back in those days, before you went on a paid tour, you had to go on a promotional tour, which usually consisted of certain colleges in certain regions where you had to hit each college, and you do the show basically for the label to promote your project at these different colleges. So it was a real good place to go when you had music at that time. It was kind of like the essentials you need now, the blog, the internet, the YouTube, the social media. Back then you had to go. The college radio was a driving force and helping us, at least, especially here, establish hip hop and put it in the minds of the people in the community that this was something an option that they had, right? Because it was something that we could do besides riding our bike or, standing on the corner doing whatever or playing basketball. It's like, yo, I can make beats. I can rap. I can actually put a project together and a tape and, put this out. And then, there's levels to that.